awesome author life. And today we're doing part 1 in a series called Getting Your Manuscript Past the Gatekeeper. And what I'm sharing is based on my personal experience as a first reader for a New York City literary agency where I read manuscripts for an agent. And I'm sharing my tips on how to get your manuscript past that gatekeeper, the intern, and into the hands of a literary agent. So let's jump right in. Getting your manuscript past the gatekeeper, part 1. And today we're talking about world building issues. When it comes to world building, we need to ground our reader in the setting. And I want to share with you my feedback to the agent on one manuscript that had a lot of world building issues in it. This is what I wrote. The writer began with wonderful descriptive details, drawing on all the senses. And then she just stopped. And I stopped reading. She stopped grounding us in the world of her story. So could there be a richness missing in your manuscript? If you're not sure, ask yourself questions like these. Where are we in the story? Another town, another planet? If so, how is it different from Earth? What are all the differences? And yes, this is something that I have totally been called out on in my manuscripts with my editor. Besides setting, we also need to ground the reader in the story. Otherwise, they are lost. So where are your characters in each setting? Do you know where your characters are in each scene? If they're outside, you could write something like, the earth was all gravel beneath my feet. Or could they be in a tunnel? You could write something like, the stale air threatened to choke me. Also, through dialogue, we can show time and distance. For example, you could write something like, Tom's house was just 2 miles away. Or, it takes a day's walk to get there. Or, I hadn't been back since last summer. So keep in mind that all stories happen somewhere, whether you write science fiction, fantasy, or about the real world. World building is key to creating a meaningful story no matter what the genre. Okay, to keep it simple, all world building is creating a backdrop for your characters to live and work and play. That's it. All of your favorite books and TV shows and movies have world building in them. So putting the time into world building will improve your writing and also enrich your story. Now, there's no need to give all the details of your story. Readers love to fill in the blanks with their own imagination. You don't have to describe all the streets in a town. One detailed street can really give us the flavor of a whole town. So world building is just as important for, say, a contemporary teen story set in Wisconsin versus a story set in an alien universe. And why? Because life in a small Wisconsin town can seem very alien to somebody who, say, grew up in a big city like New York. So if we come to find out in your story that your character puts like cheese on his pie, we may come to know, okay, that's part of small town life in Wisconsin. Now, world building is more than just setting. It actually covers everything that's in your world. It covers money, clothing, tribal customs, land boundaries, transportation, sex, food, clothing, and so much more. Just remember, though, you're not writing an encyclopedia, I hope. You're writing a story about flesh and blood characters. Story comes first. World building always comes second. It just supports the story. Build your world as you go. You don't need to know all the details of your world before you start writing the story because oftentimes a lot of those details will come out as you're writing your story. Do you need inspiration for your world? Then look at other movies or TV shows that might have a lot of world building in them. Also, you can create photo collages or video collages. Pinterest is really great for this to get ideas as well. Make sure that the details of your world building are relevant and have meaning. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, well, what exactly does she mean by that? If you're not sure if your world building details are relevant and have meaning, then ask yourself these questions. Do your world building details move the plot along, connect to the theme, and also support the growth of your characters? Another fun way to enrich your world building details is to draw a map of your world. This is a great way to ground yourself in the story and your readers, even if your story just happens in one place, or even if it happens in just one house. How many floors does your house have? Does it have a cellar? Does it have an attic? Where are the rooms in conjunction to the hallway? Where does the sun rise? Where does the sun set? All of these details can really enrich your story. When I was writing my first children's book, Joshua and the Lightning Road, my editor actually suggested that I draw a map of the world. Okay, and I'm no artist here, as you can see, but it really helps me see my story, where the characters were, where they needed to be, all the places in the story. It also helped me correct some issues that were in my story that didn't make sense. I was lucky too, because my map that I used as a reference actually helps the illustrator, Al Soroy, create the map for the book. And you can check him out online here at alsoroy.com if you're looking for an illustrator. So when it comes to world building, build worlds that interest you, and they most likely will also interest your readers because you are going to be passionate about them and passionate about creating them as well. Finally, world building supports the story. It supports the mood, the theme, the conflicts, the characters, the culture, and the setting. Okay, so let's wrap up here on world building tips. World building is so that your characters have a backdrop to live and work and play. We need to ground our readers in the setting. We also need to ground the reader in the story. Through dialogue, we can show time and distance, and world building covers everything in your story, from money, clothing, land boundaries, transportation, building materials, sex, food, clothing, and more. And a final reminder, story always comes first. World building comes second. It supports the story. So, story always trumps world building, every time. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this series, getting your manuscripts past the gatekeeper. And I hope my tips on world building help you build a world that can get your manuscripts past the gatekeeper. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, Your Awesome Author Life. And until next time, I'll see you in the zone.